In this video, I will be talking about the exclusion of strong male characters in all forms of media and why we need them now more than ever before. This isn't about diminishing the roles for women in media, but that young men deserve strong role models in entertainment too. The reality is that in today's media-driven world, there has been a very clear and concentrated movement to diminish or completely replace the traditional male hero in stories. These days, there's much effort by many multimedia giants to push more female-centric projects, and many of them fail because the writers tend to think the only thing important for a character is their gender or who they're attracted to, instead of their flaws or ambitions. But there has been a pattern of female-led projects being made while undermining male characters in exchange. Of course, the argument can be made that in the past, there were many male-dominated franchises where women were the damsel in distress or had their roles lessened. And while those movies, shows, or games do exist, I don't think the answer is to role reverse this but find a happy collective medium instead. Let me explain. Largely speaking, creators and writers feel that the only way to make their female heroes feel strong is by surrounding them with constant praise or insufferably weak and dull-minded men. This decision to depict men as incapable or weak is so prevalent in today's world that it's led to disastrous consequences in terms of revenue for many large franchises and companies. And it's not surprising, considering how most consumers of entertainment, especially video games, are, whether you'd like to admit it or not, are largely of the male demographic. Honestly, I can't imagine what it must be like to be a young boy right now with the way entertainment is today. Young boys are constantly told they're weak, replaceable, and should be ashamed of who they are for something that they have no control over. And the media they consume reflects this from massive properties like the Marvel Universe, where in the past few years, men are constantly shown to be weak or are almost always the villain or the butt of some dumb joke. Really ask yourself when it comes to how the large majority of entertainment presents men, if it's truly a positive depiction for the younger generations out there. And I'll answer that for you actually because it's not. At all. In fact, it's insulting and it's going to be very damaging in the long run. This character assassination of traditional male heroes has had nothing but negative effects on society, in my opinion. Men are constantly attacked in today's media and told to shut up, and as a man, I can tell you that it's dehumanizing. And then creators will get mad at men when they don't support the media that hates them. And I can't imagine why men wouldn't want to spend money on something that openly attacks or detests them. Maybe it's because attacking your audience is a surefire way to make sure your projects never succeed ever. But it should also be said that many people, myself included, often look to stories in the forms of movies, games, or books for inspiration when it comes to real life. The point I'm trying to make here is that young men need positive yet believable representations of what it means to be a man in media. And let's be honest everyone, they don't really have it these days. Sure, we have movies from over 6 years ago like the Captain America trilogy or the John Wick movies, I guess. But in terms of movies in the last 2 years or so, largely speaking, men are always being shown to be weak-minded and replaceable, which doesn't send a good message to the future generations of our society. Hollywood, the gaming industry, and whoever else might think by depicting men as weak or bad might help tackle toxic masculinity. But in reality, if all young men have to look up to are period pieces about how awful men are, like in The Last Duel, or characters like He-Man being sidelined in his own show, the reality is going to be bleak. I mean, I guess we do have The Batman being one of the only films I can think of as of late where we have an actual strong male lead, but one movie in an ocean of releases is not very good. The truth is, the way media is going, it will only make more weak and desperate men, which will further drag down and ruin the future for everyone. I firmly believe that a society where men are not capable, strong, or confident is a society doomed to fail. This attack on men will only create more victims, more domestic abuse, and lead to generations of young, weak men who see no value to their own existence. And that's what worries me the most, is the most vulnerable and socially outcasted of young men feel like they have no one to talk to or find peace with. So they lash out against the world because they only see a society that resents them. And that's not good. We are abandoning generations of young men and dehumanizing them in some twisted act of splintered empowerment at the cost of masculinity. And that is not a good thing or something to be proud of. Young men need heroes. They need ideals. And Western media especially is doing everything it can to demonize young men for no other reason than for being who they are. We need strong traditional male characters in media now more than ever before. Most men out there are good people, and they're hardworking, and a lot of them are lonely and underappreciated. And after working all day, they come home and they just want to unwind. And instead of finding escapism, they're suddenly told they're horrible and womanizing, amongst other things. Like, just stop. Not all men are bad people, and these companies need to realize by doing this, you're just dooming your projects to fail. Why would I want to spend money on a game or movie that promotes itself by saying it's not made for me, and then cry and look for pity when the project bombs? It's just that I think I speak for many when I say that we're just tired of being talked down to and insulted and expected to consume things from people who openly hate us because we were born male. Video games, movies, TV, and so on live and die by their engagement with their audiences. And if you think having strong male characters is somehow bad or toxic, I'm not even gonna hold back and just say that I think you're wrong. And you know what? You can hate me for that, and that's okay, but I think you're wrong. Because not all men are bad people. The very world we exist in and the devices and technology we all use has been largely developed and maintained by men. To insult and degrade the hardworking men of the world in order to push flimsy ideologies or hate disguised as progress will just lead to more despair and fighting in the future. Don't take what I'm saying here as an insult and think that we need more strong men and less strong women, because that's not what I'm saying. You can have strong female characters in media, but you don't have to diminish or ruin the male characters in order to make the female characters more legitimate. There's so many properties that have shown that when you treat both men and women equally, audiences will respond happily. The first Last of Us is considered a masterpiece because of Joel and Ellie. And when you treat and respect your audiences without talking down to them, you will be rewarded in return. Like, how is that hard to understand for today's creatives and companies? We need both strong male and female heroes. We don't need to tear each other down in order to make progress. Young men deserve to be heard, and more importantly, young men need representation that'll uplift them and help them become the future of our society. Stop diminishing the male side of the conversation. Stop telling men, and especially younger ones, that they are not worth the effort, that they are disposable, and that they are weak when they are anything but that. I know what it feels like to be labeled a toxic man before I even open my mouth. I know how infuriating and appalling it is for someone to immediately think you're awful because of your gender. Stop trying to ruin men, because this online discourse you're seeing all the time, the fighting and hate videos and so on, it's creating a subculture of groups that I don't agree with. I feel stuck in a crossroads between the insane modern creators and the people who are left behind. There has to be a solution to this problem, and demonizing each other will not do anything but create further division and problems. And I think one of the biggest things we need to do is return to a sense of common understanding. Bring back traditional male heroes, let boys be boys, and more importantly, stop attacking men because a large majority of the guys out there are just normal dudes. Give them a break already. And to all the men out there, remember guys, as long as you consume this media that openly hates you, it will continue to exist. So start voting with your wallet and answer these companies with the only language they all know how to speak. Maybe if you stop consuming the garbage they keep spewing out, things will change. And remember that all it takes for evil to prevail is for the good men out there to do nothing.